There are names the world uses every day, and then there is your name, the one my heart learned before my voice ever dared to say it. I've carried it in silence, like a promise, like a secret sunrise, waiting for the right moment. Tonight I'm not just speaking a name, I'm revealing a truth. Because when I say your name, I'm not calling you, I'm choosing you. And when I call you my queen, it's not poetry, it's recognition. I held your name the way a man holds fire in his hands, knowing its warmth could save him and its power could burn everything he has ever known. So I stayed quiet, not because I was afraid, but because some truths deserve patience. Because some names don't belong to noise, they belong to stillness, to moments when the heart is steady and the soul is honest. And before I ever spoke your name, I lived with it, breathed with it, carried it through ordinary days that felt extraordinary just because you existed somewhere in the same world as me. Your name became a rhythm in my chest, not loud, not demanding, just present, like a heartbeat that refuses to be ignored. And in that silence, I learned what it meant to wait, what it meant to respect something so precious that speaking it too soon would feel like breaking a promise I hadn't even made yet. I watched the world move fast, people throwing words around like they don't matter. Like names are just sounds, but yours never felt like that to me. Your name felt like a doorway, and I knew once I stepped through it, there would be no going back, so I stayed on this side of it, listening, feeling, letting the silence teach me who I was becoming because of you. Because in not saying your name, I learned how deeply it was already written inside me, carved into the quiet parts of my thoughts, stitched into the moments when I was alone and honest with myself. And every time I almost said it, something inside me whispered not yet, not because the time was wrong, but because the meaning was still growing, still becoming something strong enough to stand on its own. The silence wasn't empty, it was full of intention, full of respect, full of love that didn't need witnesses, love that didn't need applause, just truth. And in that quiet space I realized that revealing your name isn't just about sound, it's about readiness, about knowing that when I finally say it, I'm not just speaking to you, I'm speaking from myself, admitting that you matter in a way that rearranges everything, admitting that the silence before your name was never absence, it was preparation, it was devotion, learning how to breathe, it was a man becoming someone worthy of saying a queen's name out loud. When I finally speak your name, it doesn't fall lightly into the air, it doesn't behave like an ordinary word, it carries weight, the kind that presses against the chest and straightens the spine. Because a name spoken with love is never just identification, it's acknowledgement, it's history, it's a confession wrapped in sound. And your name carries everything I felt but never rushed to explain. It carries the nights I stayed awake thinking about who I was becoming because of you, the days that felt steadier just knowing you existed. Saying your name feels like setting something true into motion, like admitting that my heart has already chosen a direction long before my lips call. Add up, there's power in a name when it's spoken with intention. And your name holds more than letters. It holds meaning. It holds promise. It holds the quiet agreement my soul made without asking permission. Because every time I say it in my mind, I say it with care, with respect, with the understanding that names can build or destroy, and yours only builds. It creates space, it creates clarity, it creates a sense of rightness that doesn't need explanation. When your name leaves my mouth, it doesn't echo outward, it moves inward, settling deeper into me, reminding me that love isn't loud, it's precise, it knows exactly what it's doing. Your name doesn't demand attention, it commands presence, it slows the moment down, makes everything else less important. Because when a name is spoken with love, it becomes a bond, a line drawn between who I was before and who I am now. And I don't say it casually, I don't say it to fill silence. I say it the way a man speaks truth when he's done running. NG from it, fully aware that once spoken, it can't be taken back, and I wouldn't want it to be, because your name feels like standing on solid ground after a long time of uncertainty. It feels like choosing honesty over hesitation. And when I speak it, I'm not just calling you, I'm anchoring myself, admitting that this name has reshaped my understanding of strength, that softness can carry power, that love can be deliberate without being loud. Your name has gravity. It pulls my thoughts toward it, aligns my intentions, steadies my voice, and every time it's spoken with love, it becomes a reminder that words matter when they're backed by truth, and this truth has been waiting patiently, growing stronger in silence, until the moment it could be spoken without doubt, without fear, only certainty. Only respect, only the quiet confidence of a heart that knows exactly why this name matters, and why speaking it changes the air between us, changes me. Because a name spoken with love is never J-U-S-T sound, it's a vow forming itself, it's devotion learning how to speak, it's the weight of feeling carried with care, with purpose, with the understanding that once your name is spoken this way, it lives forever in that meaning, untouched, unwavering, undeniable. Calling you my queen was never about putting you above others. It was about recognizing who you already are, because a crown isn't something I place on your head with words. It's something I noticed you were carrying long before I found the courage to say it. You move with a strength that doesn't ask permission, with a grace that doesn't need to announce itself. And I saw it in the way you hold your ground, in the way you remain soft without becoming weak, in the way your presence changes a room without trying to control it. Calling you my queen is not a desire born from fantasy, it's a conclusion reached through understanding, through watching, through knowing that leadership isn't about dominance, it's about steadiness, about responsibility, about knowing when to stand firm and when to show mercy. And you do that naturally, effortlessly, without wearing a title. So when I say my queen, I'm not elevating you to something you're not. I'm aligning my words with the truth that was. Already there, destiny doesn't arrive loudly, it reveals itself quietly over time. And loving you felt less like chasing something and more like recognizing something familiar, something inevitable. As if my heart had always been moving in this direction even before I understood why. Calling you my queen is my way of acknowledging that my loyalty isn't accidental, that my respect isn't temporary, that my commitment isn't based on mood or moment, it's based on certainty, on the understanding that some connections don't ask to be proven, they simply ask to be honored. You don't rule through command, you rule through presence, through the way you remain true to yourself even when it would be easier not to, and that kind of power doesn't fade, it deepens, it roots itself, it lasts. Destiny isn't dramatic, it's consistent, it shows up every day and asks if you're willing to choose the same truth again, and every time I call you my queen, I'm answering that question. Without hesitation. With doubt, because destiny doesn't feel like pressure, it feels like alignment, like standing where you're meant to stand, beside the person who makes you more honest, more grounded, more real. And in choosing that word, I'm not claiming ownership. I'm offering devotion. I'm offering recognition. I'm offering the promise to stand with you. Not in front of you, not above you, but beside you, because a queen doesn't need to be protected from the world. She needs to be respected within it. And calling you my queen is the clearest way I know how to say that I see you not as an idea, not as a role, but as the truth you already embody. Steady, powerful, undeniable. The moment your name is revealed, the world doesn't stop, it doesn't pause for permission. But something shifts all the same, quietly, decisively, because truth has a way of rearranging things without asking for attention, and when your name enters the open air, it carries everything that was once held back, every unsaid feeling, every restrained impulse, every careful step taken to reach this exact point. The world may hear a name, but I feel a change in gravity, like something has finally settled into its rightful place, because revealing your name isn't about making noise, it's about clarity. It's about no longer hiding what has already shaped me. Once your name is spoken, there's no separation between what I feel and what I admit. The distance between heart and voice disappears, and that changes how I stand, how I breathe, how I move forward. The world doesn't become different because of reaction or applause. It becomes different because I'm no longer divided, because truth has been allowed to exist out loud, and with that, everything aligns. The way I look at tomorrow, the way I understand commitment, the way I accept responsibility for what I feel. Your name doesn't demand the world's approval. It doesn't need validation. It simply exists, strong enough to carry its own meaning, and once revealed, it become part of the air I live in, part of the reality I don't question anymore. The world adjusts not because it must, but because it always does when something real is acknowledged, when something honest steps forward, and from that moment on, nothing is imagined, nothing is hidden, everything is grounded in truth. Your name becomes a point of reference, a constant, something I measure myself against, something that reminds me who I choose to be. Revealing your name doesn't make things louder, it makes them clearer, sharper, more intentional. It removes hesitation from my steps and replaces it with certainty, not certainty about outcomes, but certainty about direction. Because once your name is known, there is no pretending that my heart is undecided, no acting as if this truth could be temporary. It becomes permanent in the way real things always do, quietly, firmly, without needing explanation. And the world continues moving, unaware of the internal shift that has taken place. But I move differently within it, anchored, honest, aware that something irreversible has happened, not because your name was spoken, but because it was finally revealed as what it has always been. The truth that changes everything without trying to change anything at Ali didn't plan for there to be a fifth moment. It arrived on its own, the way real things always do, unannounced but undeniable. Because after the name is revealed and the truth is spoken, what remains is not excitement, not celebration, but responsibility. The quiet understanding that love isn't proven in words, but carried in consistency, and this is where everything becomes real, where choosing you stops being a declaration and becomes a daily act, where loving you means showing up even when no one is watching, even when the world is ordinary and the moment isn't dramatic, because devotion lives in the small, steady decisions, in the way I protect your peace without needing credit, in the way I listen even when silence would be easier, in the way I stand firm when things are uncertain. Not because I have all the answers, but because I know who I stand with. Revealing your name wasn't the end of something hidden. It was the beginning of something lived, something that asks more of me than words ever could. It asks for patience, for discipline, for honesty, even when it's uncomfortable. Because calling you my queen means understanding that loyalty is not a feeling. It's a practice. It's choosing respect over ego, choosing understanding over reaction, choosing steadiness over escape. Loving you reshapes the way I move through the world, not in grand gestures, but in quiet alignment, in the way I measure my actions against the standard of what you deserve, because love that is real doesn't rush to be seen. It settles in, it builds structure, it creates safety, and with you, that safety isn't about control. It's about trust, about knowing that I can be fully present without pretending to be someone I'm not, and the kind of connection doesn't demand perfection. It demands sincerity, the willingness to grow, to admit when I fall short, to correct without resentment, to stay without being asked, because once your name is revealed, there's no space left for half-truths, no room for performance, only the work of becoming better through love, stronger through commitment, calmer through certainty. Loving you means accepting that some days will be quiet, some days will be heavy, some days will test resolve, but none of them will be meaningless, because purpose changes how weight feels, and choosing you gives weight a direction, a reason, a grounding force that keeps me steady when the world pulls in every direction. And in that steadiness, I find clarity, not about what will happen, but about who I am when I stand with you. Because love isn't about possession, it's about presence. It's about being reliable in ways that don't need to be announced, and if revealing your name was the moment truth stepped into the light, then living up to it is the quiet promise that follows, carried forward not by words, but by actions that repeat themselves every day, unglamorous, unwavering, real, the kind of love that doesn't fade because it isn't fueled by intensity, it's fueled by intention. And intention, when it's honest, doesn't burn out. It settles in, it becomes part of how you breathe, how you choose, how you stand. And in choosing you fully and consistently, I understand that love isn't something I say once. It's something I answer for every day after, without hesitation, without spectacle, with the calm certainty of a man who knows exactly where he belongs. There is a stillness that comes after commitment, not emptiness, not silence, but a calm that only exists when a choice has been made and no longer questioned. And this is where I stand now, not searching, not wondering, not negotiating with my own heart, because once your name became truth and once calling you my queen became responsibility, everything else lost its urgency. The world still moves fast, people still chase noise and validation and fleeting certainty, but I don't feel the pull the same way anymore, because knowing where you belong gives you a different relationship with time, with desire, with ambition. Love stops being something you chase and becomes something you protect, something you carry with awareness, with discipline, with a sense of duty that isn't heavy but grounding. And in this place, I understand that devotion is not dramatic, it's intentional. It's waking up every day with the same answer to the same question. It's choosing steadiness when chaos is easier, choosing honesty when silence would be safer, choosing presence when escape would be tempting. Loving you refines me. It strips away what is unnecessary, what is performative, what is driven by fear. Because standing with you requires truth, not perfection. It requires awareness, not control. And that awareness changes how I listen, how I speak, how I react. It slows me down in the best way, makes me consider impact instead of impulse, meaning instead of moment. And that is the quiet power at real connection. It doesn't shout, it reshapes, it doesn't demand, it aligns. Being with you doesn't make me feel bigger. It makes me feel clearer, more grounded in who I am and who I choose to be. Because loving a queen is not about admiration alone, it's about accountability, about understanding that my actions reflect not just on me, but on the bond I honor. And that awareness sharpens my choices. It teaches me restraint without resentment, strength without hardness, patience without passivity. And in that balance, I find a version of myself that feels honest, sustainable, real. This love doesn't burn hot and disappear, it burns steady, controlled, intentional, the kind of fire that keeps you warm through long nights rather than flaring once and leaving you cold. And in this steadiness, there is confidence, not arrogance, but certainty, the kind that doesn't need to prove itself because it knows where it stands. Choosing you means accepting that love is work, but it is the right work, the kind that builds instead of drains, that strengthens instead of consumes, that teaches you how to stay rather than how to escape. And staying is an act of courage in a world obsessed with exits. It means facing discomfort instead of avoiding it, addressing truth instead of reshaping it, growing instead of repeating old patterns. And with you, growth doesn't feel like loss. It feels like refinement, like shedding weight that was never meant to be carried. This is not a love defined by promises shouted into the future. It is defined by presence anchored in the now, by consistency that doesn't waver when circumstances change, by loyalty that isn't conditional on ease. And in that loyalty, I find peace, not because everything is simple, but because everything is honest. Loving you means understanding that strength is not dominance, it's reliability. It's being someone whose word can be trusted, whose actions align with intention, whose presence is steady even when emotions rise and fall, and that steadiness becomes a language of its own, spoken without words, felt without explanation. This is where devotion lives, not in spectacle, not in repetition of grand statements, but in the quiet daily decision to remain aligned with what matters, to protect what is real, to honor what has been revealed. And in that choice, repeated without fatigue, without doubt, love becomes not just something felt, but something embodied, something lived, something carried forward with calm resolve and unshaken purpose.